were discussing Microsoft Copilot and the importance of messaging around this as a support to human activity.
Well, and we chose the word Copilot for Microsoft's services that use AI for a reason. We really do want it to be something that helps people while keeping people in control. And if we all want some help going through our email or creating a PowerPoint presentation or addressing cybersecurity risks, we really want technology to make us better as human beings. We want to keep using our brains and ask better questions, get faster answers, express ourselves more clearly. But let's keep ourselves in charge. That's the purpose of all of this.
Yeah, as we were discussing before, that has to be the baseline. I think to a lot of people listening to that, it makes perfect sense. But then we rewind to what we got yesterday, and we have some of those that are the strongest voices, the loudest voices, those that invest and have the most understanding, we assume, of artificial intelligence, talking about AI extinction. I sort of wonder what the rest of us should think at this moment. Brad, can you give us the benefit of your context? Are we headed for AI extinction?
Yeah, I don't think that is imminent, and I don't think it's actually the first or most important problem we need to solve. But it's good to be clear-eyed about all of the things that might go wrong. And then let's just step back and think about every technology in the world that we use today. We even take it for granted that does great things, but could be dangerous. An elevator has a safety brake. Electricity has a circuit breaker. The school bus on which we put our children or a high-speed train has an emergency brake. It enables humans to stay in control and slow something down or turn it off. And we should have that for artificial intelligence as well, especially when it's controlling critical infrastructure, like the electricity grid or the water supply. And we ought to have it at multiple layers, both the application that is controlling something and the data center where it's deployed. That is frankly what we've been doing as human beings for 150 years for other technologies. Let's take everything we've learned and apply it to this technology as well.
Are the corporates involved, the circuit breaker in this case, or is government the circuit breaker? And can AI learn to be better than the circuit breaker? I think
we need both companies and government and frankly civil society, NGOs, to all talk together. And we're going to need multiple layers. When you really study what works for us every day, what you find is two things that fit together. One is a technical standard, and the other is government regulation that requires everyone to apply the technical standard. This is true for a circuit breaker. It's true for the emergency brake in every bus. So let's bring industry together to help develop technical standards, and let's expect our governments to move quickly so that there is a common approach and we don't have the kind of divergence or a race to the bottom that would put safety at risk.
There's two very important points there. Number one in your framework is government-led guardrails. You're having all of these conversations, whether it was speaking in US Congress a week ago. I believe you've been to the Vatican too and spoken to the Pope about this too, so everybody's taking interest. Are we close enough in terms of the conversations, the urgency, to be creating those guardrails quickly enough, Brad?
I think we are, and this is where I think rather than talk about slowing technology for 6 months, let's speed up safety conversations and take real action in the next 6 months. And already we're seeing this. We're seeing even just today, government leaders from the European Union and the United States at the Trade and Technology Council talk about advancing a code of conduct that would be applied on a voluntary basis. I think we should look in the United States to this Congress to do something before the end of this year. Every December, the Congress passes the National Defense Authorization Act, put in place some guardrails for this technology, including guardrails to protect the national security of the United States. So we are close enough to start to take real steps.
Wow, that's huge. I mean, particularly for those that have been watching the debt ceiling negotiation debacle, the belief that something could be passed by the end of this year seems fanciful. You're actually confident that something could get done this year, something at least down on paper?
If we are focused
Yeah.
and we prioritize the problems we want to address first, and we're constructive, we absolutely can take steps before the end of this year. If we try to boil the ocean and address every problem under the sun, then of course that becomes mission impossible. But this is technology that is moving, so let's move with the pace of technology, and we can solve one set of issues in 2023. Let's put in place the guardrails to protect against, say, foreign cyber influence operations in the 2024 presidential election. We can then take other steps in 2024 and 2025. Look, that's how we innovate in the world of technology. Let's innovate in the same way in the world of technology law and regulation.
I read recently that the OpenAI CEO said that you don't mind him coming to you with ideas and you talk about them and then you give him 17 better ones. So I do hope people are listening to you. In hindsight, do you think technology like ChatGPT was unleashed too early on an unsuspecting consumer? Because to your point, we've sort of gone from a 6-month pause, which seemed nonsensical, particularly in light of the sort of geopolitics of the situation, to AI Armageddon, which is the other extreme. We sort of need to keep calm heads about this and act fast. Was it unleashed
Well, look,
too
I do
early?
think we should keep our wits about us.
Yeah.
Let's prioritize. Look, when people talk about death by PowerPoint, they don't mean it literally. And I do think that Sam Altman had a lot of good advice when he testified before the United States Senate. I don't think things have moved too early. The truth is, if you want to learn how technology actually works, you need to put it in the hands of real people and get real feedback. So it's good that we're having this conversation now. There was always going to be a point in time when suddenly people's eyes would open the way they did when they saw the iPhone from Apple in 2007 or the browser in the 1990s and suddenly realized that there was going to be this thing called the internet. But I think this is how we learn, and this is how we then act on what we're learning.
And Brad, because I do want to talk about the upsides as well, what happens if we get this right for society?
Well, I think the upside is enormous, and it will impact all of us in positive ways. It will give us access to better health care, will help us cure diseases. Or let's remember, we live in a world where there are 4 billion people that have a difficult time getting access to any doctor. So to have AI-powered assistance for medical services or for students, we can bring economic development to the world more broadly. We can create better productivity growth in a world that is short on productivity growth, especially in the industrial world where populations are starting to actually decline. So the benefits are so substantial, and let's keep that in one eye, if you will, and then address the safety issues in the other. And that's how I think we make the most of the promise and protect against the perils.
Yes. Smart advice. We can't limit the future opportunities on this, but we just have to limit the potential downsides.